Certainly I've noticed, and I remember talking to Sally, a guide in Africa who I know well. He used to be able to go into the Masai Mara and within one day see several prides of lions very, very quickly, almost guaranteed. Whereas he said sometimes now he has to take guests out for a second or third day in order to see a pride of lions. The scientific data, the studies which have been done, I mean, since I've been going to Africa, there's been, depending on which figures you take, but something like an 80-90% drop in lion numbers. And unfortunately, a lot of the data, particularly in places like Tanzania where the areas aren't fenced, we don't know what's happening so much outside the gazetted, the protected areas.
But that must make it really difficult. If you don't have data, how do you sort of influence politicians and raise the alarm and be taken seriously if you can't point at stats? I mean, you say 80 or 90, that's made my jaw drop.
Yeah,
but shouldn't that make politicians' jaws drop as well?
Well, and that is based on the best data they have available. I mean, it's obviously not easy to count lions and even elephants because it's such a vast area and there's migration happening. But all the data, even the conservative data, points to drastic drops in lion numbers, and now they are a species which are on a free fall, along with elephants, along with rhinos.
Is it too late to do anything?
Speaking to people, and people in the book, people like Jane Goodall, who are always optimistic, I don't think it's too late, but it is a once in a generation, once in a lifetime situation now. Is if something isn't done in the next 5 to 10 years by the world, the true wild savannah of Africa, the ecosystems itself, the migration across vast tracts of land, which include gazetted and non-gazetted land, will disappear. And the idea that can be ever restocked or reclaimed is a fantasy.
The text in the book and the project is in English and in Swahili as well. The same message. What's the power of using Swahili, the importance of using Swahili as well?
You can go to any airport lounge, any lodge in Africa and see a whole range of beautiful photographed books. But if you're not going to engage the people who live in and around the areas, then you're preaching from outside.
And are they not involved, in your opinion? I mean, is there a need for more awareness?
You talked about a geographical barrier. There's also an economic barrier. If you're living in a subsistence, living in a village in Tanzania and Kenya, even though the heart rates are greatly reduced, they're nowhere, they're not accessible. So there are various schemes where school children go into the park. The large companies which put up lodges and obviously have successful commercial ventures there. One of the person who writes for the book, Karubusana, which he's trying to integrate the local people, use their produce, working and employing them in the lodges, because you need the countries to see the wildlife and the tourism around it and the revenue that generates as a commodity.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because part of your argument becomes an economic argument as well, saying that actually look after the lions because they're worth more to you than they are to anyone else.
Yeah, and an elephant gets killed for its tusks once. That's made money through an illegal network. No money goes back to the country. That elephant lives a long life and is viewed by tourists. Those tourists have to travel in the country. They put money into the hands of the local people and into the country's economy.
I want to ask about the pictures. The beauty of the animals comes out very strikingly, but there's social interactions, it seems to me, that you're very keen to get. When you photograph, for example, a lioness and her cub, how aware are you of the story that you're telling and how people are going to read it? Because I saw it and I thought mother and child straight away. What were you trying to teach me with the pictures?
Lions spend a lot of time sleeping and they're not charging around after antelope 90% of the time. But if you wait, and particularly if you get up early and just when the light's coming up and the light's going down, that's when these animals do gestures, and you wait for that slight thing that you think makes a picture. That's what wildlife photography is. It's sort of 99% sitting and waiting and 1% panic.